As we share a yarn today, we honour the stories that have been told on this land for thousands of years and acknowledge the Ngunnawal people as the traditional custodians of the land we're recording on. And we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging.
I think cycling was the first sport that I felt I could do well in, and I really enjoyed the environment that I was in. Like the families and the other riders that I met, like we're still all like very connected with them, and I think that social side has been a really big part of cycling and what's kept me in it for so long.
It's definitely important to me that we're there as a family, and we didn't really talk a lot about goals or ambitions or things like that. It was more about if the kids had an interest in something, and it could be anything. And in this case, it was sport and different sports over the years, and we just get around them to give them what they need.
Cycling has got an amazing family social connection, and it has been really lovely as a family to be involved in that. And as Claudia sort of mentioned, that's been one of the lovely things as part of sport, because I do feel like that social connection is really important. But we're very proud of her, yeah. And we're very excited for what's ahead for her as well.
Yeah, it's a big kind of games and environment. So yeah, super excited to have them on the sidelines and see them when I'm racing.
Welcome back to Onside and our Commonwealth Games series Clean to Gold, the road to Glasgow 2026. Today's episode is a special one. We're not just speaking to a Commonwealth Games debutant, we're also speaking to the team behind the athlete. Claudia Marcks is one of Australia's exciting young cycling prospects, preparing to represent the green and gold at her very first Commonwealth Games. But high performance runs deep in Claudia's family. Mum Megan is a former rowing champion who competed at the highest level, winning gold at the 1996 Olympic Games. Dad Gordon is also a high-performance rower from yesteryear. He served as Rowing Australia's Paralympic head coach for 10 years as well. There's also brother Eddie, who's also a cyclist. Between them, they bring decades of elite sport experience as athletes, coaches, and now parents supporting the next generation. In this episode, we'll talk about growing up in a high-performance household, the realities of chasing elite sport, and what it's like when a lifelong dream becomes a family journey. Claudia, Megan and Gordon. Thanks for coming in, Megan and Gordon.
Thanks
pleasure.
for having us.
Thanks.
And Claudia, joining us from the US.
Thanks, Tim. It's good to be on, and yeah, it's very special to have everyone here in one room. It's kind of strange, but yeah, exciting.
Well, it's pretty exciting for you, I guess, preparing for your first Commonwealth Games in the cycling team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my first kind of big games, I suppose. Everyone else from the outside watching, they're like always looking towards the Commonwealth Games or Olympic Games results compared to, I guess, people on the inside who are the athletes. The World Championships are almost, well, they are the bigger events, but the Commonwealth Games is what everyone wants to sit down and watch on the TV. So yeah, super special to be selected a part of the Australian national squad.
I remember watching you as a very young girl a number of years ago out at Stromlo, and I remember speaking to both you and your brother Eddie, and I can't remember, was it always your goal to represent Australia at an event like the Commonwealth Games?
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah, I've definitely had the influence, I guess, you know, hearing about Mum's Olympic experiences and Dad's experiences at a high level at World Championships. I've always, you know, that's almost the ultimate goal, is to be at a games like the Commonwealth Games. So yeah, it's a very exciting opportunity that lays ahead.
So how come you're not a rower? Because obviously you've got pedigree here. I'm sure there were times when Mum and Dad said, listen, jump in the boat, see how you go. Why cycling?
Well, thankfully, I never really had the pressure to try rowing, and I'm really grateful for that. I think, yeah, there's never been any expectation that I had to go down that route. I feel like there's more expectation from other people thinking that that's what my parents want, but yeah, it was never that way. I was definitely always in that environment, I guess, whether I realized I was or not. Like as a young kid, I'd be like going to work with dad and we'd go out in the water and, would see him like coaching with the athletes. And then mum was always kind of in that working at ACTAS in the high performance space. So yeah, who knows then if I was in an alternate universe where they had no involvement in sport, who knows whether I would be here. But yeah, in terms of trying rowing, I probably tried it once in high school, and I think it was one of those things where I maybe just didn't have the best like introduction to it. Trying it in year 7, and all the coaches were other like students, and there wasn't much structure. And waking up at like 4:30 in the morning to get on the freezing cold water wasn't very appealing. So it was kind of hard to feel motivated for that. And yeah, eventually my younger brother Eddie just had a spark of interest that he wanted to try out track cycling, and then it all kind of went from there.
So when did you realise that you're pretty good at cycling?
I think it was when I got selected for my first national championships as a junior. It must have been like 2015 or 2016 in Sydney. And that was really the first kind of national level event that I'd done and gotten to in any sport. I tried all the sports growing up. Didn't really have the attention span for staying in any of them for very long. But I think cycling was the first sport that I felt I could do well in, and I really enjoyed the environment that I was in. Just like the families and the other riders that I met, like we're still all like very connected with them, and I think that social side has been a really big part of cycling and what's kept me in it for so long.
So the Commonwealth Games selection, is that the highlight so far for you?
Absolutely. I mean, in the last 6 months or so, I've had a lot of big changes, officially being a part of the Australian national team, and that's been, super exciting for me. I guess coming through in my junior years, like I've always put that on a pedestal, being a part of the national team, and to finally be asked to relocate to Adelaide and be a part of that environment, it's kind of been like I've made it kind of moment. And that involved moving out of home as well. And I guess all of that, the change in environment, change in coaching, change in teammates, have thankfully put me in a really good spot. And Commonwealth Games selection has been the result of that.
Gordon and Megan, just listening to Claudia talk there, 22 years of age, quite incredible, very mature. You must be very proud of her success and the fact that she's about to make her Commonwealth Games debut.
Oh, definitely a pinch me moment for us. When she was telling us the news, tears sort of coming down in the background. I think Gordon wiped away a few, and I probably had a few in my eyes as well. And I just admire how brave she's been, because the cycling journey is quite different from what I had in my rowing journey, and she's had to navigate a lot of the path on her own and find the right path for her to get to this point. And taking herself overseas and seeking out opportunities to further develop herself, seeking out sponsors to help support her to do that, and moving away from home, and I feel like she's been very brave. And cycling has got an amazing family social connection, and it has been really lovely as a family to be involved in that. And as Claudia sort of mentioned, that's been one of the lovely things as part of sport, because I do feel like that social connection is really important. But we're very proud of her, and we're very excited for what's ahead for her as well.
Yeah, it's like quite a surreal feeling, to be sitting here with basically Claudia in the room virtually, and to listen to that, because for me, and I think for us as a family, we never really set out to have a high performance environment, as part of our family. And that was really important. It's definitely important to me that we're there as a family, and we didn't really talk a lot about goals or ambitions or things like that. It was more about if the kids had an interest in something, and it could be anything. And in this case, it was sport and different sports over the years. And we just get around them to give them what they need to have their experiences and also to make friends and have fun and yeah, in many ways we're there to pick up the pieces if things don't go to plan, and that's been more than once, and I think that's my strongest feelings are around being super proud of both the kids and Claudie now, not so much in terms of achieving selection, but having grown up and sort of finding their own way and doing their own thing as adults in their own right and uh, hanging in there when it's tough. And it's not because we're pushing them, it's because they've done that by themselves. So for Claudie, I think it was the message around, yeah, super proud of you, but more because of how you got there. The journey to actually put yourself in a position, and she did all that herself, and almost we've had Claudie can elaborate a bit more on this too, and I'm interested to hear. So we don't talk a lot about sport so much, but more so that we're there as parents, and if we start drifting into the sport area and, I hold my tongue from time to time or my thoughts to myself, but that's between her and her coaches or it's her thing. It's not our thing. We're there as a family and supportive parents, if you like. But yeah, incredibly proud and just listening to the achievements and it just, yeah, I can't really get my head around it, to be honest. So, but it's just wonderful. It's fantastic.
So, Claudia, do you seek advice from mum and dad in your high performance journey at all?
Yeah, I mean, like Dad kind of said, we don't really sit down and have conversations about that very often. I'm sure when there's periods of time when we're trying to, navigate going overseas to race for the first time and a few other things that come along the journey. We do talk about how to best navigate it. But yeah, I feel like, a lot of the time I've just been set up well to, I guess, been encouraged to try and find my own way around it. But I know that they've been there, to fall back on if I wasn't able to figure it out, or they'd help me find the right connections to get where I needed to go.
Because, Megan, you were talent ID'd at high school, so a different pathway, as we've just mentioned, but do you see similarities in the struggles, I guess, to get to the top, as Claudia has found, that you found in your rowing career?
Oh, for sure. And it's those early years in the sport, I guess. I mean, I started rowing when I was 16, and I think Claudie probably was sort of around a similar age, that sort of 15, 16, where she really was starting to sort of get into competing at a national level. And just that whole balancing act of those years going through high school and trying to, balance doing as well as you can with your schooling, as well as balancing the increasing demands of the training. That's definitely a juggling act in those years as you're developing and as a young adult yourself. So all those other dynamics that are at play. But yeah, just the hard work that goes into it, and how much hard work goes into it, and when the moments all line up and they have their moment, is really special. And even through the work that I do with ACT Academy of Sport, that's how I feel with all the athletes, is you just want them to have their moment, and you do realise in reflection that sometimes it is quite unique to have everything line up for you. There has to be a lot of things that you have to have the training, the best preparation you can, and the best health on the day. It depends on your opponents. It depends on how things play out. And I certainly see a lot of similarities and can relate. But as I said before, very proud of how she's navigating it, because it is a different journey to the rowing journey.
Do you remember the time when you both sort of at the dinner table thinking, heck, she might be quite good at this sport. She has the potential to be an elite cyclist. Was there a moment where you sort of said to yourself, okay?
To, no, to be honest, I'm probably thinking about it now, given where we are and to be here for Claude's, it's unreal. But no, not really. It was just getting to the velodrome or the track or meeting some really supportive and nice people, and we've become great friends with some of the families and still very much in contact, with the club and the coaches that were part of Claudia and Eddie's experience at the club, both at Canberra Cycling Club and Vikings. It's it's just a great community. And then if we call it the performance side, that was sort of independent of all that, and that's sort of like a spin-off, and we just go, oh yeah, that's a bonus. But it was really the whole foundation and the core was doing something that the kids like doing, or they're doing it because they want to, and then we're there and we just enjoy being around, And then the performance side, it's like I got to sit back and just go, yeah, wow, okay, here we are.
Yeah.
And it just continues. And I think there's a bit of freedom in that for, I think, any athlete or any kid or family that's thinking about sport. As soon as you grip too tight on that goal of achieving something, I think that can kind of hold you back a little bit because it just becomes too much. It's too much pressure.
Totally agree with what Gordon said, but there's probably a turning point for her in terms of the support that then came around her off the back of when she was an under-17 rider at the Nationals. She managed to get on the podium in 3 different events, and that was opened the doors in terms of support through ACT Academy of Sport, and then her introduction to a high-performance sport support environment was put around her, which was exciting and really helpful for her in terms of the next steps in the progression that she was making in the sport.
To get to where you got to, 1996 with Kate Slater in the women's pairs, and to win gold, you had to have a killer instinct. Do you think that you've instilled that into Claudia?
I don't know if I'd classify it as a killer instinct. I was a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I was, and so I was very meticulous about day plans and preparation, and every time we got out to train, we trained like we wanted to compete. We trained as if we were in a race. We were always competitive in the training environment. I can see that Claudie is quite smart and strategic and as a hard worker which is the key component of it all. So yeah, I definitely think she's got those attributes. Obviously, to get where she has been today is she's and the ability, I think, to switch off as well and recover and give yourself mental space, because it can be quite an intense periods of hard work and training and driving towards a goal. So being able to have that capacity to allow yourself to have a bit of a break and reset again for the next goal is really important. I think Claudie's developing those skills and obviously navigating it all really well.
Tell us about your mindset, Claudia. Heard it from your mum. She's a perfectionist, likes to be prepared. But let's face it, elite athletes are wired differently. And to push yourself to the limit and go beyond the limits, as you've seen your mum and dad do in their sports, do you feel as though you're similar in that vein?
Yeah, I mean, definitely can confirm that mum's a perfectionist. And I think that has helped in some ways, and in other ways I've just, learnt to find my own way to navigate things, whereas Dad has a bit of a different approach in that he's a bit more, laid back, I guess, and is there if you need support, but is kind of there to kind of push you to do your own thing and figure it out. But yeah, as I've come through the sport, I've kind of learnt to have a good balance of both. I think it's really important which I've, I guess, learnt over time, to just be really good communicator, which is, I think, one of the bigger things that they both kind of instilled in me early on, particularly like going through high school. Just mum was like, make sure you email all your teachers before, you start the year, and tell them what you're up to and what you're doing, and being proactive in seeking support, and, like going through school, trying to get extensions and being organised on that front. But I think there's a point where it can be overanalyzed as well and not very helpful. So yeah, definitely over the years, and particularly in traveling overseas a lot more, just managing those stresses and learning what things I should use my energy on and other things I should switch off on. But yeah, in a way, I'm very driven and motivated by doing better, and I guess, beating the times that I've put down before. But also in a way, I don't think I rely on sport to, I'm not, if I had to stop riding a bike tomorrow, I think I'd be okay. Whereas I think a lot of other people that I've come across, their training, their bike is their whole life. That's the one thing that they can control, and they rely on it. And I think, both seeing mum and dad and how they've gone through their careers and come through sport, and also how their relationship with sport coming out the other side has made me feel really complacent about my career and also my future outside of bikes.
Can you remember one piece of advice that your mum and dad have given you over the years that has stuck with you through your cycling career?
Yeah, I think just being really proactive and communicating. I know, like, over the years as a kid, it was came up a lot, and I definitely found it annoying, but now I think it's a very good advice. And just showing appreciation for people that go out of their way to support you, and saying thank you, and people notice when you give back, and just being a good person, and I guess just treating others and being the type of athlete that you want other people to be, and being someone that you want people to look up to, I think is most important.
Any advice that mum and dad gave you over the years that you politely said, yep, yes, but no thanks?
Here we go. It's a long list.
Nothing in particular. Sometimes after race events, there's some discussions about what I could have done, differently, or this rider was doing this and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's not very helpful because I've already thought about all the bad scenarios in my head, and I don't need someone reassuring that for me. So I try to politely ignore that. But yeah, for the most part, really trying to set the boundaries between being a parent and a coach. And like Dad mentioned earlier, just keeping the race tactics and sporting side of things in that environment, and leaving home and just family to be a place to try and switch off.
Yes. Sounds like you've done a really good job here, Megan and Gordon, in terms of the whole mindset of an athlete, not putting too much pressure on Claudia, given your success in your chosen sports over the years. So is that the way that parents need to approach it, do you think, from both of you?
I think everyone needs to find their own way and what's right for them. So what works for us personally or as a family might not suit everyone. So then some people, have a fantastic relationship, and it drifts into that, coaching sort of environment or advice. But that's just what's worked for us. And I think, if anything, it's be true to yourself, and do what's right for you, and do the best you can at that time.
It sounds like there wasn't a win at all costs mentality.
No, never.
As parents, Megan?
No. And at home, you would walk into our house and you wouldn't even know that there's a high performance sport. People that have been involved in high performance sport, I don't have any memorabilia around. It's just, it's part of who my own experiences and my own journey. But it's, I guess, I think Claudia hit the nail on the head. It's about being good people and making good connections and with people and enjoying it. And the social aspect is really important. And If we can just sort of keep that really supportive family environment around them, then we know we've done a good job in terms of them feeling like it's a safe space to come back and relax and that they're supported through the highs and lows. That's kind of our goal for them. Yeah.
Yeah. What's been harder, watching Claudia compete or your own journeys? What?
Oh, I
well,
find it extremely hard.
Mm.
We're actually going over to the Commonwealth Games, so you'll probably see me as one of the parents that's pacing around the velodrome, doing laps.
Yeah.
I can't even sit and watch it. I think I always say to people, well, the grey hairs come from watching the cycling, because track cycling is, very exciting to watch, but it's also, one of the sports that Claudie's doing really well in is the team pursuit. And when you see that one out on the track and how close they have to get to each other's wheels, and the precision that's involved with it and the skill level, I think one time Eddie was describing it to me and he said, "Oh, Mum, it's just like you're driving a car. You can't, and you're using your spatial awareness to guess how far your bonnet is in front of you when you're sort of parking or manoeuvring yourself." And I was sort of saying, "But you can see, right?" And they're going, "No, it's just a..." I was sort of going, "No, you can't see.
Yeah.
How do you do this? It's amazing." So yeah, I definitely get very nervous
Because
as
you've
a
got
parent.
not one but two
Yeah.
in cycling.
Yeah.
Eddie, of course.
It's similar but different, for both of them, and then also for our experiences. I think for me, if you're doing the activity, you're in control of that, and it's really you, and you're lost in that moment, and you're thinking about what you need to do at that particular time. When you're watching someone else, that's where your head is able to be filled by all the other things that can happen around that and the things that can go wrong or what you're looking for. And cycling is inherently dangerous, and there are risks associated with that, and at times it's nerve-wracking. And then not just the result in itself, where there's a lot riding on that as a spectator or a parent, or you've invested so much and you know what it means to the kids or the athletes that are competing, and you're just hanging on to, on the edge of your seat, hoping that it all works out, and then magically it does. Yeah, it's a really interesting mix, and I think coaching is like that as well, where you actually you provide all the tools, if you like, if you can, to the athletes or students or kids, and then send them out, and then they have to do it, and then you have to trust them to be whoever it is that they can be in that moment, and that letting go is sometimes the hardest, but also the magical part of that. Sort of what it feels like to me.
Because as you mentioned, there is the danger aspect. I mean, the greatest problem you might have had is falling out of the boat, but
Yeah.
catching a crab and
That's right.
breaking a rib or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's
You have to be in cycling, and sorry, Claude, this is probably your area, but you've got to be prepared to have your elbows out, and you can't, you don't want to concede position. So sometimes you got to dip into that jar of risk.
Yeah, Claudia, bit of advice from mum and dad.
Not advice.
Just confirmation.
Real. I think she knows how nervous I get in terms of watching her. I've always been one of the ones that would just be pacing around. But as Gordon sort of said, I think it's different when you're doing it. You're in the moment. You've got a process. You've got a job to do. As a spectator, as a supporter, it's that emotional journey. You've watched them, put in the hard yards, and you just want them to have that moment.
Yeah. So, Claudia, how excited are you to be going to your first Commonwealth Games, and knowing mum and dad are coming across as well? Adds to the excitement, no doubt.
Oh, for sure. This is the first international competition that they've been able to come to. They've always kind of supported me at the domestic events and come out to nationals most years. But in the last few years, I've had a lot more international racing opportunities, which has been really cool. But they both obviously have work in their own schedules. So it's been nice to know that this will be the first kind of one that they'll be at. And it's a big kind of games and environment. Super excited to have them on the sidelines and see them when I'm racing.
Yes. Megan and Gordon, and to you, Claudia, as well. At the Commonwealth Games, things have changed over the years in terms of safeguarding in sport. The athletes, in terms of being in a games environment like they are going to be in Glasgow, safeguarding is at the forefront now, isn't it? It wasn't always the case, but you must feel very confident in the way that the whole structure has been formulated in the lead up to the Commonwealth Games and knowing that it is a safe environment.
Um, Definitely. I mean, I think that's what we all want for the athletes when they're competing, that they feel that it's a safe, fair, clean environment for them to thrive in. I think within Australia itself, we pride ourselves on the level of integrity that we hold within our athletes and the sport and how we represent ourselves on the world stage, and just ensuring that everyday training environment is very safe for the athletes. And as we said, it's a level playing field at that international level. And of course, just general safety as well when they're travelling internationally. That's all important for the team as well.
From a coaching perspective, from two Paralympics and being able to be there as part of the organisational side of things and the amount of preparation that goes into that, and you see some of it, but there's so much work behind the scenes in terms of regulations, rules, safety, basically protecting the team as a whole and then enabling the athletes to compete uh, without having, any minimising the risks and concerns around that, regardless of where that is.
Yes. And Claudia, no doubt it's been drilled into you because you've been on a few international Australian teams now that, you know, ethical decision making is at the forefront. Integrity is a bit of a buzzword too, I'd imagine, amongst some of the teams that you've been involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm obviously a part of the wider testing pool where we get tested semi-regularly, and just staying on top of diet and supplementation, always being in communication with a sports nutritionist. And I think now, I guess with a lot of social media and things blowing up, nutritional supplements particularly, I think it's very important for younger athletes coming through to not lean into that so much, and just listen to the prescriptions from the doctor or nutritionist. But I'm lucky to be in a really safe and supportive environment. I have a really good team of professionals around me in the national team, between nutritionist, doctor, physiologist, psychologist, etc. Which, ideally as an athlete, when you're competing internationally, you should just be able to rock up and not think about everything, and you can relax. And I'm sure there's a million things that go on in the background that allow that to happen. But thankfully I'm in a really good spot and have really good support, and I'm probably in the best position that I can be, and that allows you to compete with integrity and know that you've done everything that you can to be in that position, and also just be proud of the work that you've put in, because you know that, at the end of the day, you've done everything you can. You've focused on the 1%ers and you've raced true to yourself, which I think is the most important.
Yes, and I'd imagine, Gordon, as a coach, you offer similar advice, don't you, to your athletes coming through that, you know, be aware of everything really, whether it be nutrition, whether it be supplements, whether it be, adhering to anti-doping policies, etc.
Oh yeah, it's critically important, and many of the events that we compete at or have people compete at, you're actually obligated to abide by rules and regulations, and they're super important for the integrity of the sport. And I think, like Claudia said, that's the way you behave, and character, leadership is critically important, and I see that all sort of meshing together really, really well, and it's fundamental to why we compete.
Mm. How do you find the anti-doping process Claudia, it can be intrusive at times.
Yeah. It's definitely one thing to have someone watching you go to the bathroom. I'm still learning to perfect the art of that, particularly when it comes to competition testing, because quite often they catch you right after a race and you're more than likely dehydrated because you've been stuck in a hot velodrome for 6 hours straight. But yeah, I kind of joke that I wish I could provide my location on whereabouts all the time, and that would save me having to put in where I'm going to be every night. But yeah, definitely having to be on top of that and, plan in advance where you're going to be, which most of the time as an athlete, we don't know where we're going to be in 6 months' time or what races we're going to be doing. And so just learning to manage that and be on top of that, because at the end of the day, that's my job now. I've got to know where I am and what I'm doing, and knowing what supplements I'm taking and putting that into the Sport Integrity app and logging where I'm going to be. That's just part of being an athlete. And yeah, I'm still learning how to be most productive in that. But yeah, I guess a lot of the girls in my squad are in the same position, and they're all great to be around and super encouraging, and we give each other a nudge every now and then when we forget to do things. So happy to be a part of that team environment where we can do that with each other.
That's great. A lot goes into it. It's not just getting on a bike and getting out onto a velodrome. There is so much preparation that goes into it. And you as parents and as former sports people, you obviously know what it's like. And I guess you can empathise and, add a bit of depth to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And this has been a great opportunity, which I don't think we've actually done, and definitely not as a family, to be able to reflect back on a whole lot of things. That's been really nice. But it is the whole family. And I was thinking about some of the testing experiences, where there's a knock on the door at 6 a.m. in the morning at home, and a realisation for me that, because our experiences were very different so many years ago, and now as a parent as well, to have people turn up at home and, this is about Claudia, and then it's like, oh, okay, we have to reorganise everything around being able to get the testing completed. And I had a realisation. It was like, wow, we're all in this as a family. And it was quite that was quite memorable for me to have someone turn up and just go, oh, yeah, I'm, even though I could go, this is Claudia's thing, I'm involved. And we're all involved as a family. It was quite something.
I think I found that quite interesting, because you don't often think about it. When I was competing, I think we had to actually go into ASADA, Australian Sports, and the Anti-Doping Association, to do the testing. Whereas now they come to your home, and as a family, it's kind of it's really interesting to be on the other side of it and see that happening. It's an important part of the sport, and we need to do it. And as Claudia's mentioned before, it's all part of being a high-performance athlete. But it is, it's very much her support network are all part of that journey with her, and we're sort of experiencing that firsthand. And it's kind of like, oh, well, this is kind of exciting. If you're being tested, you've gotten to another level. So, but having people within your home, and people don't often think of that, the family experience of when that's happening, and how parents are trying to support their child or within that environment as well. And but she's always navigated that really well. So it's being able to sort of take that all in her stride, which is great.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, it's obviously a very different time to when mum and dad were coming through sport, and I think they've had to, I guess, reset their expectations a little bit, or just be a bit more adaptive, particularly when it comes around like nutrition and supplementation advice, because I know that's changed quite a bit. And sometimes there were comments here and there on how much protein I should be taking and carbs and all that. So I think, just being able to have that trust with them and knowing that I have the connections and support to do that correctly has been really important.
Yes. The things I've learned just for this conversation is you as parents haven't put any pressure whatsoever on Claudia to be an elite athlete. You've been there supporting. It's been a learning curve for both of you, and for Claudia, you've been able to do it in a very supportive, safe way. And obviously, it's very heartwarming in many respects to listen to a supportive family and not the win at all costs attitude. And the fact that you say, well, listen, cycling isn't everything in my life and you've got a bit of a balance. Is that the way you read it, Claudia?
Yeah, I think I'm very grateful to have been brought up in the situation that I have been. I mean, we don't really sit and think about it very often, but yeah, the fact that they've just kind of been able to let me go and do my own thing for the most part, and still obviously be parents at the end of the day and express their concerns when due. But yeah, I really, just appreciate how they've just kind of let me go off and do my own thing, and I've just had no pressure. And I think not having the pressure to perform has just kind of helped me to be confident in exploring things and not worrying about the consequences if something doesn't work out, or if I, don't make certain times. I don't think it wouldn't be fun for me. It wouldn't be enjoyable. And to be able to do this sport for me, like, it still needs to be fun and enjoyable. And yeah, I don't think mentally I'd be able to keep doing it if I wasn't in that space. So yeah, really, I'm kind of in the best spot, biasedly, I think I can be.
You're a bit nervous heading into the games, or not as nervous as Mum by the sound of it?
I haven't really had a lot of time to think about it, to be honest. The last, like I mentioned, the last 6 to 12 months has been so many changes. I've just had my head down, jumping from one thing to the next. Like between competition and then having to relocate to Adelaide and settling into Adelaide, and then camp prep for commies, and then coming overseas to America, and then soon I'll be heading over to the camp, pre-Commonwealth Games camp. Has just been like one thing after the other. Slowly, as I'm seeing all the small admin things that I need to chase up on and do in relation to the Commonwealth Games, it is dawning on me a little bit. But I don't think it'll properly set in till, we're there putting on the uniforms and being with my teammates in that environment. And I'm, really looking forward to that.
Yes, and both of you must be incredibly proud.
Oh, extremely proud. Yeah. Extremely proud of Claudia and of our son Eddie as well. Claudia's doing amazing things.
Yes, imagine 2 of them at the Commonwealth Games. Wouldn't that be fantastic in the future?
Oh, barely get my head around this one, but yeah. No, proud of them as people.
Yeah.
Well, credit to you as parents.
Oh, thanks, but that's just kind of the way it works out. I just think what they do and finding their own, forging their own path. All power to them. I just love it. Yeah.
Megan and Claudia and Gordon, thanks very much for joining us today. It's been fantastic to hear how you've sort of gone through this journey as a family.
No, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
great to see Claudia.
Well done, Claudia.
I'm sure not many people get to say they've been on a podcast with their parents. So
true, absolutely.
Yes, well, it has been incredible to hear not just about the journey to the Commonwealth Games, but the family values, experiences, all of that, of course, has driven Claudia to this point in her life, from elite competition to coaching and now supporting the next generation. Claudia, we wish you all the best as you prepare to represent Australia. We'll be cheering you on at the Commonwealth Games. Really looking forward to it, knowing what's gone into it too. And to Megan and Gordon, thank you for sharing your insight into what it really means to support an athlete, not just in the pursuit of performance, but in building character, resilience and integrity along the way. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Safe travels to Glasgow, all of you. Thanks for listening to our Commonwealth Games series. Stay tuned for our next episode.